Alright, so let's start our session, and we are going just to start by a retro, by refreshing a retro on part of what we might have failed to mention in yesterday's session. Alright, so most of what we were doing yesterday, we were basically working on the console, because the code that we were writing, we didn't have a scenario whereby we are typing say a program with even more than one line. So basically we were working with one line of code. So and that was giving us a very nice opportunity to type in the Python console. All right, maybe just a refreshment of what we did yesterday, or what we might have missed. So we were talking about strings, and we also talked about integers and floats, and we saw how you can be able to add two numbers, or two integers, or two floats. So you can also do that to strings. You can be able to carry out addition, the addition operator on strings. So I just came up with an example whereby we probably have, say, hello, then you need to add to world, and if you just combine these two, you get one complete sentence, that is hello world. So this one only applies when you are adding to strings. Yesterday we saw that you are not able to add to either, or rather you are not able to add a string and a number, or an integer So if you are working with the strings, you need to purely be working strings. If it's integers or floats and all that, then it needs to stick to that. For instance, this is a string, this one is an integer. So if you try to add that, then you get an error. But when you add two strings, then that becomes possible. So I'm sure you have seen some questions online trying to, you are probably given such a thing, and you're expected to give the expected output of this. So sometimes you may get choices, and one of the choices is 4. So just take note of that. All right, the other thing I just wanted to mention, as a by the way, is sometimes you type in so much stuff on the console until you probably get to the last line here, but then you may be wondering how to clear the screen, so that at least you can have a clear working space. For instance, if I'm on terminal here and I probably type in some stuffs, okay, let me just type in some stuff, okay, and everything. If I want to have a clean workspace, I'll just type in clear, and I'll have a clean workspace. So we would also want to achieve that in the Python console. That is, if at all we are going to be working with it, because we also need a clean space to type in whatever code that we want to type in. So there is a module called OS that we can use to call the clear function. So in here, we are not able to call the clear function directly. If you try just calling it, it doesn't do what we would expect it to do. So we have a module we call OS. We are going to see about modules. We are going to touch something to do with modules in a later topic. So there is a module called OS, so we can talk of import OS. All right, so the next thing is that we have os.system. Then depending with your operating system, for instance, I'm using a Linux distro, and I use the clear command to clear my screen. So the same case, when it comes to the os.system, then I should have .clear inside the quotes and inside the bracket, and that will clear my screen. So if you are operating on Windows, then instead of having the clear function, I think we have the CLS. So CLS should be able to clear your command line. So the same thing, if you want to clear your your Python console using the OS module, then you need to have CLS inside these two quotes, and that will clear your screen. So if I use these on Linux, I get an error, but this should work on Windows. Alright, so those are two of the things that I just wanted to highlight on, as a by the way, as we also gave the rest of the guys some time to join. Alright, okay, so we are going now to start what we had for today, so that at least we can make some progress. Alright, and whatever we are going to do today may not be possible to do on the Python console. So this is where we are now going to start using a code editor of choice. And for the purposes of this training session, we recommended that we are going to use the Visual Studio Code Editor. Alright, and the reason that will necessitate us from moving from the command line here to using a code editor is because we will be writing multiple lines of code for maybe a simple program. It's not so easy to do that on this console. So I'm just going to close this. I don't need it for now. I'll also close this. Alright, so I believe we have already installed Visual Studio Code, and there are two ways of opening Visual Studio Code. So one of them, I'll be navigating to my file manager. That is also something that we need to be aware of. So let me navigate to desktop, let me move to training sessions, move to day 3, and okay, so we have the videos here. Okay, alright, so let me just create a new folder. Let me call it work directory. Alright, so let me move. So I just wanted to have the location where I'll be saving my Python files. So I navigated to the working directory, or you can name it whatever name that you want to give it. Then from here, I can open my, in my case, I open the terminal here, open in terminal. So for those on Windows, if you just select this section, it will be editable. Then you can type in CMD and press enter. So it should open your command prompt at that location. So from here, I want to open Visual Studio Code from this location. So the way to do it, both on Windows and Linux, you just type in code and a dot or a full stop. So then press enter. So this should open Visual Studio Code in this location. Okay, alright, welcome. Alright, so we have Visual Studio Code open in the folder that we set as our working directory. So from here, we can be able to open a Python file. So we have some option here. We can either use this option here, new file, or use this file here, this option here. So let me just click on new file, and I'll name it, let me think of a name. Okay, Python scripts dot. So we mentioned that the extension that we work with in Python should be .py. So should you type py, at least you are able to see the Python icon here. Alternative, okay, it's not really an alternative, right? I just wanted to mention something so that if probably you are starting off coding, at least you can be able to appreciate the various extensions that we have. So if at all we are talking about something like HTML, just type in HTML, see something, there is an icon that happens here. Then think of CSS, it happens. Then there is also C#, the extension is CS. I think there is also a .c, standing for the C language. Then we also have JS for JavaScript. We also have Java and etc. etc. So for Python, we are going to be working with py. All right. So that is one of the methods that you can use to open your working directory on Visual Studio Code. So the other method, let me just close this. And I'll be checking for Visual Studio Code. All right, so let's see. So if it's your first time to open Visual Studio Code, you not get this. So let me just open a new one, a new window. I think I have had a scenario of somebody who gave up because they are not able to open their project on Visual Studio Code, and they felt that coding is very hard. So this is the second method that we can use to open our working directory. So one, you can just navigate to File. Then there is switch option, open folder. So let's work with this open folder. Alternatively, you can also check if you have been opening quite a number of projects, so you can get them from the open recent. There is a list of the various projects that you have been working on. But should this be your very first time, then let's just move to open folder. Then just navigate to the directory where you want to start working on your project. So I'll move to training sessions, day 3, then Python basics. So then working directory. So this should be our folder. But should you, for instance, you might have navigated to home and probably training sessions, and you wanted to create a folder now for your project. So we have this button here for those on Linux. I also believe for Windows, you may, there is an option somewhere to create a new directory. So just create whatever directory, move into it, then click open. So by that, you are going to open your working directory. So here I've created a Python file, and just a simple command. I think we have run quite a number of commands. So just a simple command, you want to print hello world here. Hello world. So the good thing with Python, we do not have to end our command with either a comma, a semicolon, or anything. So just type in your code as it is, then save. All right. So before even we proceed, if it's your first time working with VS Code, or if you have worked with it, now that we want to work with Python, there are some very crucial extensions that we need to install. So to install an extension, so basically an extension is some add-on that adds functionality, in this case to our VS Code. So for instance, we may want to have a function that autocompletes whenever we are typing. For instance, I wanted to type in print, so immediately I start typing in, I'm able to get some autocompletions here. So that is an extension taking care of that. Another thing is that if you make an error, then you get such a warning that whatever you have typed in may not exist. So that's the work of extensions. All right, so to install an extension, there is this button here, extensions. So just click on that, and a search button will open here with a list of a number of the popular extensions. So this is where you type in whatever you want to install. So in our case, even if you are seeing Python here, then we can just search Python from the search field. So that is based on the extension that you want to install. All right, so there is this one, Python from Microsoft. So you basically check on the extension that has the most number of installations, because we may have a number of extensions with the same name and probably doing almost the same thing. So you check on whatever is popular. So this is one of the extensions that I would want us to install. Ensure you install Python extension. Alright, so for now I think that's all that we need for now. In case we need any other, we are going to do that. And the other good thing with VS Code, if you are working on an extension, or rather you are working on your code and a very key extension is missing, you will always be notified down here that you need to install a particular extension. So just click on install and it will be installed. Alright, so there are various ways of executing these, executing whatever commands that you type in here. One, there is this run button. Sometimes, though if it's your first time, usually needs configuration. Sometimes it doesn't always work, but let me just check. I had reuse it, but let me see. Alright, so I think we see it working. So that is one of the methods of executing whatever code that you have here. The other thing, there is this run button. Let me just check, start debugging. Let's see the output. Python debugger. Let's see. Whoa, taking me around corners. Let me check on that. Okay, we see that something is happening down here. Alright, and it has already been executed. Alright, so those are the methods that we have, but there is one that I do adopt, and that is working with the terminal. So there is this button here called terminal. Alternatively, if you are not able to see it, then there should be some 3 dots somewhere, but you can just click, then you get a drop down, and the options under the drop down, one of them is terminal. So just click on terminal. Let me just redo it, and it will open something here. For instance, let me just close what we have here. We don't have the terminal, so just come here, new terminal, and it will appear here. Alright, so should you have, say you have some Python scripts you have been given, you are probably required to either debug or to basically work with them. So using the terminal, what you need to do is that you need to type in Python. That is for you to execute a Python script. So work with Python 3. Then what should follow is the name of that Python script. So in my case, I have Python scripts, and once I press on enter, I get whatever output that I have here. Alright, this is because we have print. So remember yesterday on the console, we were talking about, say I have x is equals to 10. So if I just put x there, so when we were using the Python console, we were a bit lazy. We were not typing in print x and all that. We were just typing in x. So will it work for now? Let's see. Alright, so it doesn't work. So as we mentioned, this tells you that whenever you want some output on the console, then you need to have that the print function at work. Just mention print and print whatever you need to print. And this thing is very crucial when you are working with Django. Sometimes you want to print something on the console. You're probably trying to debug or trying to see how something works. So before you even render that to a template, you want to see the outcome on the console. So it's a very crucial function that we will be using. But when it comes to production, you may rarely use it. Mostly it's used in development. Alright, so that's a brief introduction on working with VS Code and Python. So we are now going to start on what we had for today, and we are looking at functions. So today I want us to look at functions. So basically, if you think of a function, why do we need to learn function? And what is a function? So basically, a function is a reusable block that we put in place then whenever we need to use it, we just call it using one command. So for instance, think of creating programs. We want to create a program, and creating a program means we will need to be typing in a series of commands. So let's think of creating a calculator, a very simple calculator that should add two numbers. So let's call, okay, I've already started showing you how to create a function. So for you to create a function, you call the keyword define. All right. So you call that def, this one here, then you give it a name. So as we mentioned that these names should at least make some sense, so that whoever will be managing your code is able to relate very quickly on what you are talking about. So you define so that's the short form def, then give it a name, then have some brackets. Okay, sorry, have some brackets there. Then we have those colon. Then proceed with the rest of the thing. And when writing functions, indentation is a key thing that you need to pay attention on. And the good thing is that when working with code editors, they will give you the indentation automatically. Unlike when you are typing on the Python console, these you need to create them manually. But you see, immediately you have colon there, press enter, then doesn't move to the very far end. It will indent that. All right, so there's the way to define a function. And so define, give the function a name into brackets, colon, then press enter, then type in whatever you want the function to do. For instance, we might just have wanted to print hello world. So that's basically a function. And the thing is, this is a very simple function. We might have wanted to undertake quite a number of operations in this function. And so let us just take that example. We want to add x and y. And so we want to print, so x, let me say x is equals to 10, y is equals to, say, 9. Then, sorry, let me just make it beautiful. Then we just want to print x plus y. All right, so this is basically a function. And a function will only execute if you call it. If you don't call a function, then it will just be there. So after defining a function, you need to call that function. And what does it mean calling a function? We need to say add x and y that way. Okay, all right. So let me just comment that out. And remember, commenting, we said you can add a hashtag before whatever content that you have. We're also going to see how to comment on multiple lines of code. So I want to run this file, and remember, once you type in your commands, your code, then you need to save that file before you try to execute it. So just save that, then come back to the console. So using the up button, I can't be able to reuse that. Press enter. So there is no output because our function is just there and does not, and we haven't called our function yet. The fact that we have a print command here, we haven't yet triggered this function to start working. So the way to do that, we need to enable that. Let's save, come back to the terminal, do that, and we get the output. So the thing is, we are trying to build a calculator, and this block of code, we can call it as many times as possible. So we have that, we can call it again and again and again. So if we were to duplicate what we have here, so what we have here, we have 4 lines of code, and we want to do that same thing, say how many times? 5 times. So we would be having 20 lines of code here, but imagine we are kind of simplifying the 4 lines of code with just this one line. So that's the power of functions. Trying to trying to reuse the block of code that is common. So in this case, we are just talking about 4 lines, but then think of that simple program with 100 lines of code. So when coding it, you just need to code it once, probably using 1 line of code to represent the 100 lines of code. So we can advance this to, let's look at another example. Let us look at another example. We want to define greetings. We want something that will greet us whenever we call it. We want to print hello there. Okay, this doesn't make so much difference, but it's also another example of a function. So we said once you define a function, ensure to call it so that it gets executed. And the way to call it, not just by the name, but you need to have the brackets. Alright, let's save that. Then let's come back here. Let's run that and we get hello there. Alright, so that's simply how to create functions. But think of a function that we want to, for instance, we want to customize the greetings. And we want to ensure that instead of just saying hello there, we want to call you by your name. So we have functions that takes in arguments. So or other parameters. We need to pass in some parameters in the function so that we get a custom message or whatever operations that are to take place. They need to be custom or oriented to suit a certain need. And that is a common thing in Django. We are going to see that once we get there. So we don't just want to have some dry greetings. We want to add some flavors, at least to customize that so that we are able to appreciate that the greetings actually belongs to us. So I'll repeat that. Okay, let me just have this. All right. So we have greetings. Then the next thing that I need to pass in is I can have a name here. And then here comes so hello. Okay, let me have that. So there are quite a number of ways to pass in the name here. So let me just use this method. So we define greetings, we pass in something, then we print hello, then this name that we have passed here. And just note that we are not having this name at the quotes. Otherwise, if we have it at the quotes, then that means it will just print something like this. But we want whatever we have here to reflect in this section here. All right, so when calling this function, we need to pass in that argument, or rather that parameter. So let's have greetings. So we need to pass in a name. All right, so I'll be passing in a name. And when passing in a name, because a name takes a string, a name is basically a string, combination of characters which forms a string data type. Then we need to have it under the quotes. Then we just need to save that, proceed to run our program, and we get that custom greetings. So that is that, and that is for just one parameter. So think of we would want our function to have more than one parameters. All right, so we can define. We have some. Let me just name that function sum. Probably sum is a reserved keyword, but we are going to see. Let me see. So we want to pass in some two parameters, x and y, and what this function does, it will be adding the two numbers. So we have, let's have result is equals to x plus y. Then we need to print a result. Sorry, result. All right, so then we need to call that sum, and we need to pass in the values. Let me pass in 20 and 45. So we expect to get 65 there, right? We see that. So basically here we can basically simplify this. Instead of just having more than the 2 lines of code, we can have the result here anyway, x and y there, and do away with that. Alright, so let me rerun that, and we still get the same. So sometimes you can just try to reduce the lines of code that you are writing, and you are basically not limited to the number of sorry, you're basically not limited to the number of parameters that you can pass in. Just pass in as many as possible, as long as you are able to suit your needs. Alright, okay, so let me see if there is anything we are missing out on functions. Alright, so another thing is that when dealing with functions, it's not always that things will work on your favor. For instance, let me comment out that. Okay, let me comment out on this. But to comment on multiple lines on if you are using VS Code, I'm not sure about other code editors, then you all need to select everything that you want to comment out, then using Control and the /, then it will comment all the lines of code. Alternatively, let me see. Okay, let me talk of. Okay, let me print this and see how it goes. Okay. All right. So, sorry. So you can also use these 3 quotations to kind of cover whatever block of code that you want to comment. So just use the 3 of them at the beginning and cross that. So it will comment out whatever lines that you have in between that. All right. So I want us to check on something else about functions. So let me talk about define division. I want division, and I'll be taking x and y. So I want to divide 2 numbers. Then we have print. We will be printing x divided by y. All right. So let's call division, and we need to pass in. Let me pass in 6 and 3. So we expect to get 2. We get that. So how about if we have 0? We get 0. How about if we have 3 and we have 0 here? All right. So we get an error. So if this happens in your block of code, and say particularly in Django, or even in a Python program, so what happens is that breaks your code. If there was something that was to happen thereafter, then it stops, like it will stop executing the rest of the lines. So you need to at least be able to check on that error and be able to handle it accordingly. All right, so there is something that we call try and catch block. Okay, but basically in Python it's try and except. I think in JavaScript, I think that's where we have try catch block. So what we have, we need to be not just in functions. We basically need to be cautious about whatever we want to return to the user, whatever we want the system to return. So in case you think that an error may occur, you need to handle that as it should. All right, so in this case, so let's have a result. Let's save our results to, that is, we have x divided by y. So for some reason, we expect that we may get such a scenario whereby we want to divide 3 by 0, and since it will not give an exact value, that will break our code. So instead of doing this, what we need to do is think of the errors that may happen when dividing two numbers. If at all you come up with a list of the possible outcome, the better. If you don't have a list but you suppose that an error can happen, a scenario like this can happen, so there is something we call try. So you tell the program, just try to divide the two numbers. All right. If that doesn't happen, then run an exception. And so this is the trick. I don't know if it's very ethical when working with Python, but sometimes you are not sure about the error that you expect, but you know for some reason an error may happen when you are dividing two numbers. So if you are not sure, and I said I'm not sure if it's very ethical, but it works anyway. If you are not sure about whatever error that might result to dividing the two numbers, so you can just have except here. All right, then the rest of the thing should proceed. So what we have here, in case the two we can divide the two numbers, then let's print let's print the result here. Let's have a result. Otherwise, if there is an error, then we can simply print operation not supported. Or any, we are trying to be able to manage that error or whatever output. So whatever message you put in here should advise the user accordingly. So for now, let me just work with that. Let me try to run that program again. Okay. All right. So it tells us that the operation is not supported. All right. So let me try to do this. I want to show you something. All right. So I wanted to capture this zero division error. So in this case, whereby we are just catching the error in the except block without anything, so it's any other error. But then if we are very aware that the error that might result from whatever program that we are running will be a zero division error, then we can have it after the except, after typing in except, then we can have it there. So we have already specified the error that we expect will happen. So this is the way to do it, being aware of the error that you are expecting. Alternatively, we mentioned that it should be unethical, not sure, but it still works. Just have except, such that if this operation doesn't run, then sorry, then it will move to this block and do whatever you have instructed your program to do. All right, so I think that's it for functions, unless anyone has a question. Unless anyone has a question on how to work with functions. Anyone? Any question? Any difficulties? Yes, Mike? This part here? All right. Can I paste it on the chat? Okay, all right, no worries. All right, any question out there? Alright, I believe for now you're a bit confident with working with functions. Just a summary of what we said, how to define a functions. You just call the def keyword, then give your function a name, into brackets, then you have colon, then you hit enter and define whatever you want that function to do for you. And eventually for that function to work, you need to call it. So calling a function, you just mention whatever name you give it and ensure to mention the brackets. We have also checked on functions that do take in a parameter. And parameters simply means values that you pass in to be used within that function. So you define the function the same way we have done initially. Give it a name. So inside the brackets, you mention the parameters. So you can just mention the kind of the variable names that you are going to work with. Then have a colon, hit enter, and continue with the rest of the operations. Another exciting thing that we have mentioned is that don't forget that your function may not always execute as needed. Some errors may happen and you need to have this. So this is also something common in Django. You need to at least appreciate it, so that when we get there, we don't meet new stuff. So that at least we can be able to appreciate that. So it's common. You meet it in other languages as well. Otherwise, if for instance you have this was working on a Django block of code, and you don't do this, then it breaks your code. And you know, if you have not set errors to show, they will return, I think, error 500 to the user, and they will not be able to proceed until now they reload. But whatever they are doing will not be successful. So at least you need to handle that. All right. Oh, sorry, Nimrod. So guys, are you able to hear me? Probably I'm not audible. Kindly confirm. Wow. Is it just now, or I haven't been audible since? Okay, so sorry about that. I didn't know that I'm on mute. So sorry about that. Please confirm that you are now able to hear me. Okay, all right. Okay, thank you for that confirmation. Sorry about that. So I think after Mike asked a question, I think I just gave an overview of what we have covered. And I mentioned that just the way we have created these functions. How do we created a function without any parameter, just defining, giving your function a name, then have the brackets, the colon, then everything else comes down here where you tell your function what to do whenever it's called. So for a function to be executed, just ensure you call it. Then there is a function that takes in a parameter. This is how to do it. And ensure when calling that function, you have that a parameter in place. Then whenever you think that that function may not execute successfully, just think of the possible outcomes. If you feel that there is an outcome that might break your code, then be sure to use the try and except block. All right, so that is it for functions. And as I mentioned, we are going to be working with functions in Django. So just in case you have a question on that, be sure to ask. All right, so the next the next thing that I want us to move to. We have controlflows.py. All right, I want us to move to another thing, and I have created a new file that we are going to be using, and okay. By the way, the fact that I was muted, I might have prevented somebody from asking a question. Is there any other person with a question from what we just covered? Okay, all right. I think silence means we are all good. Okay, so we are going to move to another topic, whereby we are just going to check on control flows. So basically what we mean by this is that we are going to be working with some, we basically said that we'll be working with the data. And this data, we want to be making decisions based on whatever data that we have. So sometimes, for instance, think of we have fetched some data from the user, and we want to save that data to the DB. There is a column that requires us to save whether this user is an adult or still a child. So we basically ask them for the age or the year of birth. So from this we are able to fetch their age. So that is, they either give us the age or they give us the year of birth. So we want to be able to determine whether they are qualified to be adults or they are still children. So we need to be able to do some checks on this data. And whatever checks we do, we subject the age that we get to that check. If it meets our condition, then we know what to classify that. If it doesn't meet the condition that we want, then we know where exactly to classify that as well. So we'll be making decisions based on whatever input that we get, and based on the parameters that we set in place, or the conditions that we set in place. So we are going to be doing this by exploring if. We have the if statement, we have the elif, and we also have else. All right. So, and I started by that example. We have a system. We are asking for the age. Think of the age, and we want to determine, is this an adult or is this still a child? So the way to do the if check, say we get the age of this person. So we'll be getting the age, and we want to subject that age to the condition whereby we are expecting that if this age is 18, think of that system. We want to check if this age is 18. So we want to check if this person is 18 years and above, so there is an adult. If this is below 18 years, so in this case we are not mentioning 18 years and below, we are mentioning below 18 years, then this is still a child. So the way to do an if check, so we need to check if age. So if age, whatever age that we get, so this age can vary. So this person has come in, they are 18 years, so we want to check that age against the age that we have decided that our check should be 18. So we want to check if the age is greater or equals to 18, then we can print. Let's do a print. You are an adult. think, let me see, let me remove that space there. All right, so in that case we don't need that space. So we are checking. So this is the age we have gotten from the user. The user has informed that they are 18 years old. So we want to check that against our condition. So we are checking if the age they gave us is greater or equals to 18, then we consider them as adults. Right? So let me save that. Let me print here. Okay, I think I'm still using the old file. So in this case I have Python 3. Then I need to pass in this file here. All right, so it tells us that or rather you are an adult. So what if this user is 12 years old? So we don't get anything, because one, we are just checking that if age is greater or equals to 18, then just print that. So we don't have any other check. We are not checking if we basically have one condition that we are checking against: age greater or equals to 18. But then we can change this. We can change this to less than 18. Let me just change that. We run this program. Okay, so this should tell us that you are a child. All right, you are a child simply because you are below 18 years of age. All right, now that we had a scenario, we had this scenario here, whereby we are checking if age is greater or equals to 18. By the way, okay, let me just deviate a little from what we are doing and do some refreshment. All right, so we have seen ourselves using greater than, less than. So we basically need to appreciate what these signs means. I don't think I even require this one. Let me just exit from here. I don't need this. All right. So to check if a number is greater than the other, or rather, let me just mention some of these signs. So we have we have this sign here. So this is the greater than sign. Then we also have this. This is the less than sign. Then we have the equal to. So if we want to check if say a number is equals to the other, or say a set of strings is equals to the other, then we use double equal sign. Equal to. I'm hoping you are aware of these things, but let us just mention them. So then we can also check if they are greater or equals to. Greater or equal to. Then we also have less or equals to. Okay, I believe we just have this, and that's in. Okay. We also have another one whereby we can check if we have that. So this is basically not equal to. Not equal to. I believe that should be the case. Let me just run a quick test here. So I want to check 3 is not equals to 2. True. Okay. All right. That's true. 3 is not equals to 3. That's false. So it should be like this. That simply means not equal to. That is, whatever is on the left is not equals to whatever is on the right. And all these are very crucial whenever you're working on Python and Django projects. So just be in a position to appreciate what they mean and how they work. All right, so let's come back here. Let's continue with So let me move them here. All right, so let me continue here. Okay, all right, so here we want trying to check if the age is greater or equals to 18, so that we can confirm that that's actually an adult. Okay, and actually we don't get anything. So the fact that we don't get anything is because our condition is one side oriented. So we want to check. After checking if this person is an adult, it's not a must that this person is an adult for us to get an output. So we also need to handle in a scenario whereby the age is less than 18. And this is where the else statement comes in. So I just want to see, we have two scenarios that we want to capture. Age being greater or equals to 18 or less than 18. So if that's the case, we can start our condition or our control flow with what we have here. Then we do an else statement. And then we print that you are a child. So this condition just checks if at all you are 18 years and above, then you are an adult. Sorry, so if you are 18 years and above, you are an adult. Else, you are a child. So whatever age that you are in, if you are not 18 and above, then you qualify to be a child. So that's how, or rather that's where now the else statement comes in. All right, so what if you have quite a number of conditions to check? If you have, say, more than, because for now we are just working with two conditions, that is think of 18 and above and below 18. So what if you are checking below 18, 18 and above 18? So we basically have three conditions. So let me just copy this, comment it out, then have it here. So we are basically working with three conditions. One of them is 18, or rather less than 18. We have greater than 18 and equals to 18. All right, so we check if age is greater than 18, you are an adult. Then we also need to take care of the second condition. So the second condition, we talk of elif. All right, so elif, we need to check something, and that something is we want to check. So this is greater than 18, so the other thing should be age less than 18. We print. Okay, I think we can just copy here. Okay, we can just copy what we have here, print it here. All right, then else statement. So here this person is above 18 years old, this person is less than 18. So else we can say you are neither a child nor an adult. Okay, this may not be a very ideal example, but at least we are able to see that we have three conditions to check against the age that we get. So we currently have 18, or rather age less than 18 years old. So let's see the outcome that we get. So this person is a child simply because they are less than 18 years old. Let me add 1 to have 120 years old. That would be a great blessing for that person. So it tells us that this person is an adult as we expected. So let me have 18 years old. Then let's return that. And we see our program is working as expected. So basically, if you have more than two conditions, then you need to have an elif proc. So think of if you have more than 4 conditions. So let's quickly check that. So for instance, we have a fruit. Let me have a fruit. Then let me have orange. So we want to check if fruit is equals so we have said if you are checking if something is equals to the other one, then you need to have double equals. So we have if fruit is equals to banana, then print banana. Then we can also do an elif. If fruit is equals to which other fruit do I know? We have apple. If fruit is equals to apple, then we print apple. Is sugarcane a fruit? For those who know more about it. If fruit is equals to have avocado, then let's print avocado. So I wanted to illustrate that you can use elif multiple times, if at all the conditions that you are checking against whatever you have are multiple. So you can use as many elif statement as you may want. So let me just use the two, then else. So for instance, we suppose that we only have these types of fruits. So if whatever we have here as a fruit does not fall in any of these category, then we can simply print that that's not a fruit. All right, still not a very ideal example, but I want us to try and appreciate that we are able to use multiple elif statements. All right, so let's close that. Let's run this, and saying that it's not a fruit, but then we can have a banana here. Let's run, and we get that. So you can use as many elif statements as possible. All right, so basically that's all I wanted us to check on control flows, unless anyone has a question on that. The use of if, else, and if else. So basically, for you to be able to use else and if else, you need to start with if. That is the beginning of the two elif and else. Otherwise, you can't just start your statement with elif. You need to be checking it against something you have initiated using if. All right, I hope it's clear. Is it clear to everyone? All right, thank you, Mike, for the confirmation. How about the others? Are we still together? Are we still connected? Okay, perfect. Perfect for that confirmation. If anyone has a question, please let us know before we move into something else. We want to move into something else. All right, so we'll be moving to something else, and I hope I'm not moving so fast. Okay. All right, so let me create another file here, call it loops.py, and we'll be talking about loops. So sorry. So loops basically help us to move through a set of instructions and to undertake some operations. So the best way to look at it is by some examples, and we are going to look at two types of loops. So one of them is for loop, and we're also going to look at while. So okay, so basically for loop is the one that we'll be taking over to Django. While I haven't seen while when working with Django, but it's also good that we mention something about it. All right, so okay, all right, so for loop. So for loop. So we use a for loop basically to go through a set of items, and we'll be doing some operations with that. And the common thing that we'll be meeting is when working with list. So think of a list. Let me have nums. We have been working with the nums for some time. Let me have 2, 5, 8, 19. We have 10. All right. So we may want to print these numbers. And one of the ways to print them, let me just have print. Let me print numbers here, nums here. Let me see what I get. Oh, sorry. I needed to use the new one, Python 3, then have loops. All right. So I have just printed this list here, and this is what we get here. All right. So we may want to take each and every element here and do something with it, and probably print it on the console. And in that case, for loop will be an ideal function to use here. So let me show you how to go about it. So if we just print nums, we get this, but then we can try to loop through the nums and print them. Then later on we are going to see how we can use each and every element to do something. Maybe we can find a square of it. We can any operation that we can undertake on each and every element. So a for loop, we have for, then we usually introduce a variable. And the popularly known variable, we usually use I for I in nums, then colon, enter, then do the rest of the operations here. So in this case, we want to print each and every element, not as a list as we have here, but we want to print an element after the other. So all we need to have is that we need to print, and we have an I there. Save it. Then let's run our script here. So we have been able to print each and every element. All right. So we may want to to get a square of each and every entry here. So for instance, the square of 2 is 4, 25, 64, and all that. So we may have okay, let me just have times I. So we are multiplying basically each and every entry by itself. If we run that, we see we have that. And what else can we do? What else can we do with what we have here? All right, so we can talk of for instance, as we loop, we want to break that loop when we get to 8. So we can check if I is equals to 8, then let's break. All right. Else, okay, let's print I. Okay, let's see if that's gonna give us something nice. All right, so you see what happened. So we checked if I, each and every, so I is looping through each and every entry. So if I is equals to 8, then just break and don't continue with the loop. Otherwise, continue printing. So it will print the first element until we get to 8. Then it will break. All right. So what else can we do with loops? What can we do with loops? Okay. So we have done some operations. We have seen if you can check if a certain entry meets some conditions. What else? Okay. All right. I think there is nothing much with loops. We just need to appreciate how we can be able to extract each and every entry on that list. So basically, loops do not only apply in list, they also apply in other data types, but we are going to reserve that for another day. I wanted us to appreciate how they work in list, because this is the popular one that we are going to be looking at. Alright, so I don't see any other example that we can give, but it's as simple as that. Just introduce an I here, which doesn't necessarily need to be an I. We can talk of, you can even talk of for num. Since our list, we are calling it nums, then you can talk of for num in nums. Then whenever you have an I, just have num, then everything else should work as expected. It's only that I has been a popular thing that is used in loops. All right, that's for the for loop. All right. Okay. All right. So the next thing I want us to do is to see how the while loops works. We have the while loops, and what basically a while loop does is that it will continue executing whatever thing that we tell it unless a certain condition, or rather, what happens is that a while loop continues executing whatever operations that we tell it, as long as it meets a condition that we set. Otherwise, if that condition is no longer met, then it moves out of the loop. Alright, so we may want to count 1 to 10 on our console. Like we want to have some program that counts 1 to 10 on our console. And we want, whenever this program gets to 10, it moves out of the loop and it doesn't continue counting. So something you need to note about while loop, well, nothing much can happen to your machine, but if you're not so keen in setting up those conditions, then it can form an infinite loop. Say it's counting and you did not set up to what number it should count. So if your machine is not strong enough to be able to provide that power, it will freeze and you need to force it to shut down. Otherwise, sometimes it's not possible to move out of that loop by just trying to close the terminal and all that. Anyway, let's see how to work with it. So all right, so what do we want to count? We want to count from 1. So let's have 1, count 1, and we want to do while. Okay, sorry. So the way to do a while loop, we start with the while. We want to do the count is less than or equals to 10. So we want to start counting from 1, but then, so we want to start counting from 10, and when, sorry, we want to start counting from 1, but it should continue counting until it gets to 10. So when it gets to 10, it then moves out of the loop and stops counting. All right, so let's print count, and in this case we need to increase the count so that it doesn't just remain 1. So in this case we introduced count to be 1, then we started a while loop and told it to and instructed our program to start counting for as long as count is less or equals to 10. So should it go past that, then stop counting. All right, so we need to do count here. Then we have a shorthand method. So basically what we would have done, we would have said count is equals to count plus 1, but then we have a shorthand method of doing this. Instead of having that, we can simply mention plus equals 1, which is the same as count is equals to count plus 1. So there's something new that we have encountered. We might have forgotten to mention. So basically the shorthand works with both multiplication, we have subtraction and all that. So the shorthand method, instead of having all this, we can have this here. Alright, so we are adding 1 to count, and we want to print that up to where we have count being less or equals to 10. So it shouldn't go beyond that. So let's try to run this and see. Alright, and we see very quickly we have been able to get a count of 1 to 10, and immediately we go to 10, we exited that loop. So whatever thing that is here continues to be executed until this condition is no longer met. So, well, there is nothing much about working with while loops. It's not so common, but it's worth noting that we have such a thing that you can work with. I'm not sure if I will come up with any example on that on Django. It's basically rare. It's not a common loop that we will be meeting in our day-to-day. Alright. So that's it for loops. For now, we just needed to mention those two, and that's it for loops. Unless anyone has a question or a concern. Any question or a concern from the team? Is whatever we are running, at least are we able to make sense out of the concept that we are running? Okay, perfect. Okay, all right, let me do that. I interchange this one. Okay, let us see what we get. So I'm supposing it to start counting from probably 2. Okay, all right, let's see what we get exactly. So we start counting from 2, and this one goes past 10. Okay, all right. So I hope it's clear to everyone. Any other question, guys? And I'm afraid, because sometimes silence may mean that some concepts are so hard or they don't literally make sense. Because especially when you're running some new stuff, you may get that the concepts that are being delivered, like you try bringing them to reality to see how best or where you can apply them. And if you don't get an idea of where you can apply them, then your mind that just doesn't get it right. It just assumes that they are just there to complicate your life. But I'm trying as much as possible to mention what we will need to, we must master, because we will need it when working with Django. Alright, so in case these things are hard, please be sure to do some examples, engage me, so that at least we can look at whatever is not making sense, because everything we are doing needs to make sense. And we said this is kind of a refresher courses, or rather a refresher course. We are not covering as much. Because one, we have limited time, and we wanted to at least focus on Django. But since we know that amongst us we may have some people who are passionate about learning, so we at least decided to give them a chance to build a bit of a foundation in Python before we now take them to Django. And whatever we are running, I believe when we get to Django, they will not find it so hard appreciating the Django concepts. while focusing on Python concepts. Alright, so I hope if you are not getting it, please ask questions. That's why we are not even having classes over the weekend, because we have that set aside to anyone who may want to do some consultations and all that. So feel free. Alright, the final thing that I want us to look at is working with Python modules. Working with Python modules. Alright, so let me call it modules. Okay, Python modules.py. Alright, so Python modules, what are they? What animals are they, and why do we need them? So basically, when we talk of Python, or sorry. Alright, so when we talk of modules, so modules are basically, let me just call them blocks of code or functions that have already been defined. They have already been defined, tested, and working. So for you is to just consume them. And for you to consume them, one, you need to acknowledge that they exist and you have the know-how of how to go about working with them. So think of anything that you need to do. Before you start creating your custom code, you need to think if there is an existing module that can help you achieve that. So it will help you save a lot of time and a lot of stress, because some of these modules are simplified in such a way that if you are to create your own module to achieve the same thing that a module achieves, then you may find yourself writing hundreds of lines of code, and they may not be able to withstand that test, because probably it's just working for a few types of data, but it's not able to handle errors as needed. So modules are basically tested and they add functionality to your projects or to your applications. So remember, as you are starting today's session, we did something. So allow me to use console for now. So we started with using a module. I'm not sure if you noted, we imported something. We imported OS. So that's how basically to initiate a module. Like, you first of all have to be aware it exists. Then by knowing it exists, it's because you have gotten to a point that you need to use it, so you import it. And the same thing, we would have had the same thing here. Import OS. OS is a module. It's a module that exists, and I think you can see something to, there is some help here that gives you some information on how to use that module. All right. So that's an example of a module, and we gave an example of how to use it. You can call os.system, and if you're on Windows, you can talk of CLS and cross that as well, and it will clear your Python console. If you're on Linux, then you have clear. So that's one of the modules that we have. It's not so popular. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that we have already used a module when we were starting today's session. So think of the lines of code you would have used or you would have written to achieve what this one has done to our console. So some of them they are not easy to achieve. And if they are, then you need to write hundreds of lines of code before you are able to achieve that. So modules are very important. So I'll just mention one module. It's a popular one in Python, The rest of the modules we'll be getting them in Django. We'll be working extensively with modules. They are there, and there are so many. Alright, so the thing we have said is that just acknowledge that a module exists, know how to use it. That's all. So it will simplify your work. Alright, so there is a module called, let me see, is it called math or maths? Okay, let me see, import math. Okay, it's called math. It's a popular one. And okay, so let me see if we can get help. Math. Alright, okay, alright. So we have quite a number of things that we can do with our math module here. So for those, some of these mathematics, cosine, sine, and some others that I can't recall if we covered them. Okay, I'm just trying to check of the popular mathematical function that we can use. Alright, so one of them is cell. We are going to see, okay, let me just note them here. One of them is cell. I think we should also have fro. Okay, we should also have fro. Is fro, degree, distance. Okay, all right. There are so many mathematical functions here that fro. Okay, all right. We have that. Then we have exponential. Okay, all right. All right. So I think we should also have something. I don't know, square. We have factorial, fro. Alright, we have quite a number of functions here. We don't need to just go through all of them. Also we have square root. Square root is also there. Alright, so I think that should be enough for this illustration. Okay, alright. Square root. Okay, alright. So let us just work with them on this console. So let's import math, and I want us to see what cell does. Cell. So we have what we have. We have the aspect of rounding up. We have round up, round down. Like if you have like 2.5, and you are told to, we used to have something like round off to the nearest tens, hundreds, something like that, right? Or to the nearest whole number. So what cell does is that it rounds that. Mostly we work with float, especially for the cell and fro. So for cell, it will round up whatever float that we give it. For instance, if we have 2.3 or 2.3, so we are expecting, this has not yet hit the 0.5, which we would have expected. If we have 0.5, that's when it will go to 3. But we have 0.3, but we have passed it to math.cell. So let's see what we get. So we get 3. It takes that number to the next whole number. But if we passed this to fro, so it kind of routes down that number. So it takes it to the previous whole. Okay, not really the previous, but the immediate whole number. So it just kind of truncates. So removes the decimal part and returns an integer. So that's for cell and fro. Then let's appreciate the power of square root. So if we try to get the square root of 16, we get 4.0. That's okay. That's how. That's one of the modules that we can work with in Python. Another very popular module we can have. So let me just mention a few modules here that so we have math. We can also have import date time. Okay, date time. Import, I think we can also import time zone. Okay, we can also import time as it is. Import time. Do you have time zone? Okay, time utils. Wow, okay, all right. Let me see if there is any other popular module that we can import. Okay, we have OS, date time. Okay, all right. Maybe let us just appreciate that we have some predefined functions, and these are what we are calling modules. So these are already predefined. You need to know how to work with them, because you'll be requiring to work with them. So if you have a notebook, just take note of this. Just see how they work and see the functionality they can add to your application. By doing that, you'll have more information on what you can be able to get out of them. All right, so these are predefined functions. But then, can we create our own functions? And the answer is yes. We can, and we will be creating our own functions. We will be creating our own modules. All right, so let us do that. Python modules. So let me just create a module here, and okay, all right. So I want to create a module, and in this module I will be creating functions. I will be working with functions, and I want a module that will be greeting me. And let me just talk of name, and should return. It should okay, not return for now. Let's work with print. Hello. So okay, I want to just show you something else as a by the way. So we have been working with hello, then we add the name that we have there. But then we can do better. We can do better than that. We can pass an f string here. Then in here we can say hello. Then let's have that those curly brackets. Then pass in the name. So in this case, it will pass in this name here, which would have the same as just having hello. Then we close that plus the name. All right. So we want to close. So this is a module that we have created, and we want to use it in say Python script. All right. So let us use it in Python scripts here. Okay, all right. So let me see. Okay, let me stop working with that. So for me to work with a module, we said that we import it. All right. We need to import that module. So the way to import a module, we have talked of import, and in this case we can talk of let me talk of import Python modules. So let me import. So I just use this file name, the file name where my module sits. All right. So I have done the importation, but then will it work? So by just importing, you haven't triggered that module to work. And the way to trigger that, you need to call Python modules dot. So in this case, we have greet. Remember, we have a function that we named greet, and we will be passing in. My name is Kim. So I need to pass this parameter here, Kim, for my function to work, or for my module to work. So once I do that, let me just save that. Let me come back here, working directory. Okay, so for now I'll be working with Python scripts and not Python modules. So it's from when I work with Python scripts, they will import Python modules for me. So let me talk of Python 3, then I have Python scripts, enter, and we have hello Kim. All right. So this has imported the module that we have created here. So it's from this module we created a function. Then we imported that module here, and we have been able to implement it here. So that's one of the ways of implementing a module. And we also have an alternative method. We have an alternative method. So if we had, say, 1,000 functions here, if we had 1,000 functions here, so this one, by just doing this, import Python modules, it will have imported them for our use. So they will be in the global space, and we can simply call them by just saying, okay, let me just show you that. Sorry for that. So let me just come here, define something else. Let me define some. I'll be working with X and Y. Then I'll be printing. Okay, I'll be printing X plus Y. All right. So I have two modules. So another thing I need to have is Python modules dot sum. All right. Then let me pass in 10 and 5. All right. Save that. Then run that. All right. We get 15. So there's the response from this function here. All right. So basically, if I have 1,000 functions here, then I can easily refer to them as we have seen here by just calling each and every module as we have seen. So there is also another way that we can do that. Maybe we have there are 1,000 functions in this module, and probably we don't need all of them. We want to make our application lightweight. So in that case, we may want to just import what we want to consume. All right. So in case we don't want the greetings, we want to get the sum. So in this case, we just talk of from Python modules import sum. All right. Then for us to execute that function, we just need to call sum, and we are going to pass in 30 and 50. All right, save that, then do that. We get our output as 80, which is what we expected. So there is this and there is that. So it all depends with what out of the existing module, what do you want to consume? All right, and that is that. I think we can try something I haven't tried in the past. So we imported or rather we imported math, and we used sail or even fro. So what if we talk of from math import sail? We get it? All right. So instead of saying math dot sail, then we just talk of sail. Then we have 4.1. Do we get 5? We get it there. So it's doable. You just need to know what you need, what you want to achieve, and proceed and do it. So you can either use this or these to refer to your modules. Either the modules that you defined on your own or already predefined modules. So it all depends with what do you import here. So for now, I've imported sail from maths, but initially I had imported the whole math module, which had all those functions. So just check on what you need. If at all you needed more than sail, then you can just import. You can import the whole math module, or you can also import. For instance, we talked of from math import sail. Then we can also import from. We can also import square root. And you can work with it as we have here. All right. I don't want to go past that. I think that was quite enough content to cover for the Python fundamentals. Unless anyone has a question. Any question from the team? Any question?